You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I am Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I'm joined by Macon Gillespie, publisher of the Grove Report. And he is nice enough to wear his Northwest Community College polo after I put the video up last Thursday of Deion Smith completely destroying Northwest Mississippi. That was obviously planned, John.
Yeah, no, it was more of an irony than anything. And I didn't even attend Northwest. I just have some friends from my neck of the woods who did. So, it's a nice logo. It's a nice pullover type thing. So I'll rock it when I can, I guess.
Yeah, pretty good. And you wearing that shirt just kind of interesting, eases us into this first topic, and it is Deion Smith. And John, I said this on my show, and I absolutely mean it. If Ole Miss has a national championship at the end of this season or a long playoff run at the end of this season, this week was the most important week for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, I think. His skill set, I mean, obviously, we talk about all the embarrassment of weapons that's on that side of the ball, but his skill set is huge, I think, as a supplement to this offense. I think you made the case that this is actually a really big thing for Trey Harris, which is an interesting way of looking at it, one that I agree with. Yeah, I mean, it's huge. He's obviously superbly talented. Got a lot of great tools that he's going to be able to bring to that side of the ball.
Yeah, and just like Trey Harris is number one in the SEC when he has single coverage. And whenever you have an elite weapon on the other side of him that prevents him from double covering Trey Harris, obviously one of those guys are going to get loose.
Yeah, and that should be pretty scary, I think, for opposing defenses. Obviously, what he was able to do at the junior college level a season ago. Granted, yes, it's JUCO, but Mississippi JUCO ball is pretty, legit. He did some really impressive things. You see here, 48 catches, 1,063 yards, 12 touchdowns. It's really big stuff, and I think that's going to translate really well to Ole Miss and the SEC.
Yeah, and Ole Miss getting a big-time junior college wide receiver for somebody that's my age, that's not a surprise. Whenever you get somebody from Holmes Community College, you don't have some kind of a stigma attached to them because they came from JUCO, because of the way that I came up being an Ole Miss fan. So there's some players on that level, and Mississippi JUCOs is probably the best JUCO league in the entire country, either that or Kansas. And with that said, Deion Smith just toyed with people. He did not average less than 17 yards per reception in a game this season. 3 or 4 games, he was over 30 yards per reception. He returned punts. He's 6'4". He's a big type wide receiver, 190. I've talked to people all in the course of the year. This is a player with Randy Moss level ability. I don't think anybody realizes the unicorn that is Deion Smith.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fantastic. And I mean, circling back to the Northwest thing, Northwest is a solid Mississippi JUCO program. I mean, they've competed on national levels before. And what he was able to do against Northwest a season ago is a testament to just how special he is. Now, obviously, there will be an uptick in competition, but his skill set and size, body frame, all that kind of stuff is more than enough to translate to this level.
Now, changing gears a little bit to the class of 2025, I believe you interviewed Jerome Myles, the wide receiver from Corner Canyon, who just got his 5th star from 247 Sports. And I think what probably happened, the commit probably got everybody's attention. They didn't pay attention to him to start with. But when he ran like that 10-2 or 10-3 100, all of a sudden they're like, okay, we need to wait, because anything below 10-5 is like Xavier Worthy level speed.
Yeah, and that's actually what he views as his biggest skill set. I know that's a surprise, I say sarcastically, but I talked to him about, one, what attracted him to Ole Miss in the first place. And Obviously, Ole Miss's pedigree of developing wide receivers and getting guys to the league is a huge part in that. But he thinks his speed can contribute really special things to this offense once he gets to Ole Miss. And I mean, it's kind of hard to argue against that when you have numbers like that in your favor. But yeah, he spoke really highly of the staff and of what he's expecting in that wide receiver room when he gets to Oxford. He does have a couple other official visits planned, but for right now, I think Ole Miss has to feel pretty good about where they are.
Yeah, I really wish they would have held off on this fifth star for a couple of months, because all of the big boys are going to come in and start offering, for lack of a better word, this young man. And because, I mean, I compared him a little bit. Whenever you watch him play, it looks a lot like Dante Moncrief.
Yeah. Yeah, and the timing of the fifth star thing, I mean, that is another variable to consider here. But Ole Miss again does have the benefit of their wide receiver development in their back pocket. And if you've noticed on social media, Jackson Dart is kind of interacting a little bit with him as well. Obviously, there's a connection there as far as prep school ball is concerned. So yeah, I think Ole Miss still has to feel pretty good about it. His official visits that he told me about are Utah and Michigan. I don't know exactly when those are, but he did say that he expects to take those as well.
And Ole Miss is still recruiting Caleb Cunningham. And Ole Miss is not out of that by a long shot. That would be a dual 5-star wide receiver haul if Ole Miss could land both of them.
Yeah, and I've seen Caleb in person too. I mean, his build is ridiculous. He's from my neck of the woods here in North Mississippi, and yeah, he's got it if Ole Miss is able to land him for sure.
Yeah, back whenever I was in high school, it was still called Ackerman High School.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was like, he's going to Choctaw County. Where's that? And I was, okay, that's
Ackerman and 1A powerhouse Ware consolidated. I think it was in 2013, something like that. And yeah, but I mean that's some good football territory in the state of Mississippi right there. Two schools like that coming together to make one. Yeah, they've got some talent.
Yeah, you want to know what the next football power is going to be, though? I'll tell you, the next high school football talent hotbed in Mississippi, they're consolidating McGee High, Mendenhall High, for Simpson County Central. Yeah, and that's about 10 state championships between them.
Yeah.
You get the feeling they're going to be pretty good. I don't know if we have a Dillon, West Dillon type situation or, what's going to happen, but I think Simpson County is about to wake up in the high school football ranks.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of around 2015, 16, something like that, when Bassfield consolidated. I mean, they had won countless 2A state titles and consolidated to form JDC. I mean, when football power schools like that combine with another school in their backyard, you're usually going to end up with some pretty good results, even if you are moving up a level.
Back in my day, Bassfield would go hide students out behind the gymnasium when the count man came so they could stay 2A.
That some of that. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that some of that still happens today, but I have heard of instances like that through the past where you try to stay at a certain level, fudge the numbers a little bit, try to stay where you are because, I mean, you've got such a great talent pool and you're able to go on a run. I think they watch stuff like that pretty closely nowadays, but you never know.
Yeah, it's all digitized at this point now. There's not a count man, So we'll see what's up with there. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. When we come back, John is going to be on the hot seat. He's going to tell us his top 5 Ole Miss running backs of all time. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app usually go down the closer to kickoff or tip-off it gets. And with killer last-minute deals all in prices, views from your seats, the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. They have the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation, and job loss protection. Basically, they are the gold standard of customer service in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every shot count. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all of that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right, John, you're in the hot seat, buddy. We're going today, just so everybody knows, we're going to do the top 5 running backs in Ole Miss history. We're going to do a countdown from 5 until 1. My show happened on Tuesday, so I can actually comment a little bit of what's going on. Number 5.
So I stretched the first. This is a really interesting topic. Okay, I stretched the truth a little bit. I'm counting Dexter McCluster in this group. Obviously, he was a bit of a unique specimen there, but I have him at number 5. Obviously, played some wide receiver during his time at Ole Miss as well. But I think what he was able to do with the ball in his hands from a rushing perspective, he finished with pushing 2,000 yards in the rushing category. I think he warrants a spot on this list.
Yeah, and Dexter McCluster, what he did to Lane Kiffin and Ed Orgeron whenever they were at Tennessee is hilarious.
Yeah, it's insane. And Lane, I think, still will reference that on occasion, remembering that day. Yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was when everybody was introduced to the wild rebel, and McCluster just went nuts. Number 4.
I have Brandon Bolden at number 4. Obviously had a very long NFL career. His Ole Miss numbers, he finished with over 2,500 rushing yards. But then he went on to, obviously he was a great piece in Oxford, but he went on to have a really productive professional career as well.
Number 3.
Jeff Scott, his explosive ability, I may have him a little higher on this list than he might warrant. But there are a few plays from his career that really stick out in my mind. Obviously, the 13 Vanderbilt game was huge. Finished with over 2,200 rushing yards. Really kind of a spark in that early Hugh Freeze era type offense that was in Oxford at the time. So I have him at number 3.
Punt return in Texas was also, I think that was the last punt return before Jordan Watkins that Ole Miss had.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, that's correct. Yeah.
Number 2.
Now, this is predating me a little bit, predating my memory. I have Joe Gunn at number 2. Over 2,700 rushing yards while splitting carries with Deuce McAllister. I think that's pretty insane. I have him at number 2.
And number 1. That's probably your free
Deuce.
space.
Yeah. It is. That's Deuce. Over 3,000 rushing yards in his career. I was alive during his Ole Miss career, but I don't remember it. I do remember his production, like with the Saints, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, looking back at the tape of him at Ole Miss, it's pretty surreal, And I think he definitely deserves that top spot.
Yeah, 1997, him and John Avery in the backfield. That was 2 first-round draft picks, both in the backfield. And then at the end of his career, it was Deuce McAllister and Joe Gunn, who is the second leading rusher of all time. Mm-hmm. So that running back field was stacked his whole time at Ole Miss.
Yeah,
literally, Charles Stackhouse was there.
Well, yeah. And that's kind of what makes it so impressive to me is being able to put up those kind of numbers with other capable backs there with you. And granted, part of that was the time that they played, but still, I mean, that's still really impressive.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. What's going on over at the Grove Report?
Well, now that baseball's over, doing some more stuff looking ahead to football season. Obviously, we're going to be talking all the way up to media days, looking ahead to stuff about the 2024 season. I'm going to try to keep talking with some commits, some recruits, that kind of thing, because that's been some really fun stuff, talking about their perception of the program. Yeah, I mean, this is actually a really interesting time of year for me, talking season. I do kind of enjoy it, but I am really looking forward to football.
Well, this year is the first year, and it's going to happen that there's a bunch of people that's going to be caught off guard by it, but it's going to happen. June is the official visit month now. You're seeing like Mario Nash, the Kemper County offensive lineman.
Mhm.
He's May 31st, he's at Clemson. June 7th, he's at Ole Miss. June 14th, he's at LSU. June 21st, he's at Mississippi State. And they're getting them all out of the way because basically they're setting this up for a right at the end of June signing day that's going to happen in the years ahead. So
Mhm.
yeah, June is the high school recruiting month, it looks like.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good time for that. I mean, especially when there's no actual game going on, it's a good time to talk about and analyze that kind of stuff.
All right. And I just let everybody know the meet and greet that we're going to have is July 2nd at Walk-Ons in Ridgeland, Mississippi at 7:00 Central Time. Love to see all the Locked On Ole Miss fans that are watching this broadcast at that Walk-Ons, and we'll have a good time. We'll drink a beer. We'll probably have some red beans and rice, and we'll see what's up. Anyway, John, thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. John Macon Gillespie, the Grove Report. Thank you very much, man, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, I appreciate it, Stephen. Thank you.